Welcome again, everyone, to our 2026 Restoration Authority Grants webinar. My name is Linda Tong, and I'm the Deputy Program Manager for the Restoration Authority, and I'll be presenting today with Sarah Haugen, the Authority's Grant Program Coordinator and Project Manager. And we are joined by our new Civic Corps intern as well, Mia Blanson, who will be helping us take some notes. Sarah? So I'll just dive right in. If you're here on this webinar, I assume you know a little bit about what the San Francisco Bay Restoration Authority is, but we'll just provide a little bit of background and context. The San Francisco Bay Restoration Authority, or you'll hear us say Restoration Authority or the Authority, is a regional agency that was created in 2008 to fund shoreline projects that will protect, restore, and enhance San Francisco Bay. Our jurisdiction is the shoreline of the 9 counties in the San Francisco Bay area. And to accomplish the Restoration Authority's mission, Measure AA was passed in June of 2016. So passage of this measure generated funds for a program for San Francisco Bay clean water, pollution prevention, and habitat restoration. This measure generates approximately $500 million over 20 years for restoration around San Francisco Bay. This is a $12 per... Bit of feedback. Am I still coming through okay? Okay. $12 per year parcel tax. And we get about $25 million per year. We often have projects that are multi-year and have other funding obligations. So the amount of money that is available for this grant round will be less than that amount. But in total, we have about $25 million a year to spend on projects. Luckily, this measure passed with over 70% support in the Bay Area, so we are very happy to be able to provide these grant funds to Bay Area projects. Next slide. Okay, great, thanks. So just generally our funding requirement, if you've been on our webinars before, this is same information, but if you're new, we require projects to be habitat-focused projects that will restore, protect, or enhance tidal wetlands, manage ponds, or natural habitats along the shoreline. We can also fund flood management features as long as they are part of a habitat project. And we can also fund public access or recreational amenities, again, as long as they are part of a habitat project. So that is our overall general funding requirement. We are able to provide funds to a variety of different types of grantees, ranging from government agencies at the federal, state, or local level to tribal governments. We can also provide grants to nonprofit organizations and owners or operators of shoreline parcels. In terms of eligible location, I mentioned already that the shoreline areas of the 9 counties of the Bay Area are eligible. So this would be along the shorelines of San Pablo Bay, Coquina Strait, Suisun Bay, and most of northern Contra Costa County shoreline, but does not include the Delta Primary Zone. And we do have a map of that within our request for proposals package posted online. So we have a lot of detail, written details posted online as well. And I've mentioned along the shoreline a couple of times already. So what do we mean by that? This includes a range of habitats along the edge of San Francisco Bay, including subtidal habitats, which are areas lying below mean low tide within a reasonable distance of the shoreline, and baylands, which are areas that lie between the maximum and minimum elevations of the tides, including areas that would be covered by tides if levees or other unnatural structures were not there. This includes the portion of creeks or rivers located below the head of tide. So we often get questions about whether riparian or creek restoration projects are eligible. They would have to be located below the head of tide. And along the shoreline also includes transition zones. So that would be upland areas that are adjacent to tidal wetlands, either existing wetlands or potential wetlands, tidal wetlands, that can provide some transition habitat or marsh migration space, as well as areas that are needed to enhance the project's resilience to projected sea level rise. And here's a nice graphic of the various habitats along the edge of the bay that we are talking about. Again, this information is also within our RFP, so you'll be able to reference that. And next are our eligible project phases. So we can fund phases of a project ranging from acquiring land for conservation all the way through operations and monitoring and maintenance. Typically, grant applicants are coming to us with requests to plan for a restoration project. So all the various stages of planning and design, we are able to fund. Permitting, we can fund, and of course, construction and implementation. And if you have questions about how to phase your project and what scope of a project you should be applying to us for, please feel free to reach out to us. We typically are not funding planning and construction within the same grant. So you'd apply to us for like a planning phase, or you've gone through planning and design and you're coming to us asking for construction funds. So yeah, just reach out to us if you have questions. And then we just want to note that throughout all of these project phases, we encourage our applicants to think about how to engage communities early on at any project phase. Partnerships are key for successful restoration projects, and we want to see evidence of that. All right. Oh, I did want to mention, I think Sarah will talk about this a little bit as well, but within our grant application, we'll be asking how the project includes community involvement and what benefits there are. And well, there's a checklist for you to make sure that you are obtaining letters of support from community representatives, if that's relevant for your project, support from tribes if you're claiming partnership with a tribe, as well as landowner support. All right, on to our Measure A eligibility criteria. If your project fits under our general funding requirement, the next step is to look at how your project fits under our eligibility criteria. This first one is a safe, clean water and pollution prevention program. And some activities that qualify under that are improving water quality by reducing pollution and engaging in restoration activities. Could be reducing pollution levels through shoreline cleanups and trash removals, and this is a big one that we fund, restoring wetlands that provide natural filters and remove pollution. Next slide, please. Our second eligibility criteria is the Vital Fish, Bird, and Wildlife Habitat Program. And activities that fit under this criteria are enhancing the San Francisco Bay National Wildlife Refuge, shoreline parks, open space preserves, and other public lands for better habitat for fish, birds, and mammals. We want to see projects that are protecting and restoring wetlands and other shoreline habitats to benefit wildlife, including shorebirds, waterfowl, and fish. And we also like to see projects that provide opportunities for stewardship and maintenance and monitoring for these restoration projects so that we can see the benefits to wildlife and people beyond just the grant period. Next, I mentioned earlier that we are able to fund some flood management components if they are part of a habitat project. So under our natural flood protection eligibility criteria, we're able to fund nature-based flood protection through wetland and habitat restoration. And we can also fund improvement of levees if they are a necessary part of restoration. And our last eligibility criteria is shoreline public access. So we do love seeing projects that include public access and access amenities as part of a restoration project. Of course, as long as they are compatible with wildlife habitat restoration around the bay. We can fund new or repair existing public trails, signs, and related facilities along the shoreline. Another example of public access amenities that we can fund are interpretive materials, special outreach events, and activities that encourage community engagement. All right. This third category to keep in mind are the Measure AA prioritization criteria. So here is a long list of criteria that applications are evaluated against. We want to see that projects are providing positive impacts to the bay as a whole. Projects that can provide long-term impacts. We also make sure that our funds are distributed evenly throughout the various regions of the Bay Area. We are looking to see that projects are leveraging other grant funds or public-private partnerships so that we aren't necessarily the only funder of a project. And then Sarah will go into this a little bit more, but we do focus on projects that will benefit economically disadvantaged communities in the Bay, projects that engage youth and young adults, and we do have a separate program that focuses on that specifically. But even within our regular competitive grant rounds, we do want to see projects that are that have strong community engagement components. I won't go through the full list here, but they are listed again in our request for proposals. And if you have any questions about these, feel free to reach out to us. We don't need applicants to hit all of these prioritization criteria. We understand that, projects are multi-benefit in different ways. But we do expect to see projects to hit at least some of these very well if you're not hitting most of these. Projects will also be evaluated on their likelihood of success. And for this category, we're looking at an applicant's capacity and resources to complete the project. Within the grant application, you'll see section where it asks for the applicant's history. We, of course, ask for a budget and schedule for the proposed work, any funding, other resources and partnerships that you're leveraging, as well as your plan for monitoring and stewardship of the project. We're also looking at a project's level of community involvement and benefits or innovative partnerships. And for this, we'll be looking in your application for what project partners you have, what level of commitment there is for these partners to participate in your project. We'll be looking to see if you have support letters, what benefits the project would provide, and coordination with local jurisdictions. And just to give a little bit more detail about what we mean by innovative partnerships and community benefits. Innovative partnerships could look like collaboration between community-based nonprofits, as well as like more with more established environmental organizations. For example, collaboration with federal, state, local, or tribal governments, philanthropies, civic organizations, educational institutions, art organizations, and more. As for benefits to communities, especially economically disadvantaged communities, if your project would have direct involvement and support of local community groups, we will note that. Perhaps your organization has a track record of working directly with communities. Let us know what that is. And if the project will help alleviate multiple stressors within communities, such as perhaps a lack of recreational amenities, or risk to climate change, describe that in your application as well. We have some resources linked within our request for proposals for some tips for how to meaningfully engage communities that you can use in your projects.
Okay,
and I will pass it on to Sarah.
Great. So now we're going to talk about the grant round this year and the schedule and things to note as you work on your application. So right now, this is kind of the process we go through. During the summer, you're encouraged to submit a pre-application, which is really just a way for us to get some basic information about your project idea. When you submit that, we will schedule a consultation with you, 30-minute call to give you feedback on the pre-application. This can save both you and us time to make sure you have a strong project and things to emphasize in your full application. It's not something that's required to apply for the full application, but highly recommended. Then you can use that feedback. That should happen before late September. The full application is due early October of this year. Then during the fall and winter, our staff and advisory committee members will review applications and then present our recommendations to the governing board in 2027. That's the cycle. So just note that projects can't really begin until summer 2027 at the earliest. Okay, so a little bit more on the schedule. The application period is open. As I noted, we recommend you submit a pre-application to get feedback in a consultation. That is due September 4th in order to give us time to receive the application and schedule out a consultation call. We tend to get a lot of these in September, so we encourage you to do those pre-apps as early as you can to make sure that both you and we have time to adjust your schedule and use the feedback. And you'll email grants@SFA-Restore for that. Linda, I think, mentioned in the prioritization criteria that one of those that you can seek is adoption by the San Francisco Bay Joint Venture, which is a local entity that partners with us a lot. They have a process where you submit our same pre-application to Gemma Williams, her email is linked there, to be considered by their conservation committee. And this is the first step to seeking adoption. And the adoption means that they think your habitat benefits of the project are, under the standards that we all follow. If you're already ready to go with your project idea and have some details, you could submit it today to be considered for the August 5th meeting, but there will be another opportunity in the fall. So stay tuned for that. But again, if you already have a lot of information down and can prepare a quick pre-app, you could do that at this point. As I noted, your award dates could start in spring or summer of 2027, more likely summer generally. And all this information is on our website. So application tips, as we discussed earlier, applications will be evaluated based on the eligibility criteria, those 4 program areas, whether it's along the shoreline, in the Bay Area, those kinds of things, and the prioritization criteria, which are all the different ways the project could benefit the habitats and communities of the Bay. And of course, the likelihood of success, if it seems like you have a strong project and the ability to carry it out. Again, we recommend you submit a pre-app by September 4th to schedule a consultation with us. And the components of your application package are a PDF cover page And it's very important to download this first and then fill it out. If you do it on the web browser, you might lose progress and the formatting could get funky. So download and fill that out. The Word application itself of the grant application, and then the Excel budget. And sometimes people forget to submit the Excel budget, but it's important for us to be able to kind of check the math and have it in the same format. It's a lot easier than like a screenshot or something. So please include those in their correct formats. Also, any project maps and designs that relate to your project, any relevant photos. And if you are not the owner of the land where you intend to do the project, we need a letter from the landowner saying that they support your project. It doesn't have to be an official landowner agreement, but at least some indication of their support. And also, as Linda mentioned, if you intend to work with any tribes or tribal organizations, please include a letter from them to indicate their support. It's not reaching out to a tribe is not the same as them wanting to partner with you. So be really clear about that. If you're only in a stage of hoping to reach out to tribes, be really clear about your level of partnership with us. And you can include any other support letters, but we wouldn't really ask for those until we're bringing a project to the board. So anything that will help make your project look strong. And of course, this is all on our grants webpage. And I wanted to note also that there's a point breakdown in the scoring criteria. Sorry, I missed that earlier. So as far as meeting the criteria, that's 20 points. The priorities are 40, and likelihood of success is 40. So that's the quantitative breakdown. And then there's also a qualitative evaluation where we highlight strengths and weaknesses of the application. Okay. I also wanted to just point out that we, in the last year, put out a lessons learned memo. The lessons learned document is something that is required by all of our grantees to kind of highlight how their project went, tips they would have for anyone else doing similar work. So we summarized several of those, 25 of our past grants, into a short memo. We recommend you look at that to see where you can learn from other people's experience, things that went well and things that were harder. And this is something we'll try to update over time as we get more of those reports in. So a resource for you. And again, we'll be sharing the slides with all these links. And so a couple of examples of projects we have funded through this regular grant round. One is the Greenwood Gravel Beach Design Project, which was to Marin County Public Works for a planning phase. And this developed plans and obtained permits to build nature-based shoreline protection in a valuable coarse-grained beach habitat in Marin. I believe now they're moving on to construction, so it's exciting to see these projects moving along over time. Another example is the Lower Walnut Creek Restoration Project. This was just under $8 million to the Contra Costa County Flood Control and Water Conservation District for construction or implementation. It's now referred to as Pacheco Marsh, if you have been there over near Martinez. They restored creekside wetland habitat by breaching levees to introduce the tides to diked former baylands. It's a really great site. You should go check it out if you haven't been. Okay. Next, I'll talk about the Community Grants Program, which is a rolling grant program that's always open to community-based organizations. So just give an overview of that while we're talking about our grants in general. So as I noted, this program is meant for community-based organizations that are in economically disadvantaged communities. We have a map of this on our website. It's one of the parts of Measure AA, so you can see the map online. It's related to census data. And so the kinds of projects we can support, the same eligibility criteria apply for this grant program, but there's a focus on community visioning led by CBOs in economically disadvantaged communities. It could be training for these leaders to develop, apply for, and implement small shoreline habitat projects. It could be supporting CBOs to gain knowledge of shoreline issues and building relationships with government agencies and nonprofits, such as for regional shoreline planning efforts. It's really important that communities are aware and engaged of how to be involved in those, and to implement shoreline habitat projects with strong community benefits. As I noted, the same prioritization criteria apply, but there's an emphasis on benefiting economically disadvantaged communities, as well as engaging youth and adults. And there's specific criteria for the Community Grants Program where we're hoping that these projects will achieve community benefits within the foreseeable future. So, 1 to 5 years, because as you might know, larger restoration projects can take 10, 15 years, to be completed. So we're hoping this grant program is more of where the community can be engaged and actually see the results of their engagement. It should have a well-defined community engagement process for us to understand how you're going to be working with the community, and some sense of urgency. We want to make sure this is really important to the community and habitat. The likelihood of success criteria are the same as the regular grant program, so we'll be looking at the applicant's capacity and resources to maintain the project, including past work, their budget and schedule, their project partners, and monitoring maintenance and stewardship. And I'll just note that because these are, grants for community-based organizations, partnerships are super important. So we really like to see CBOs partnering with, environmental nonprofits if they don't have as much experience with habitat restoration, let's say. So it's really important to demonstrate how your partners can help, the holistic picture of your project come to life. And of course, we want to see a high level of community involvement with these projects through support letters, highlight the different ways the community will be involved, and as I said, a requirement is to benefit an EDC. The process for this is, as I said, rolling. But staff are more involved in the project development phase as needed to kind of support CBOs. This grant program is meant to kind of be a track that's a little bit easier to work through than our regular grant round. And because there isn't the one deadline, it's ideally more accessible for CBOs. So it starts with a CBO submitting an application for our review. We'll take a look and schedule a short consultation to provide feedback to the applicant and look for eligibility and anything that could be improved in the application to better make a better case for the project if it's eligible. Then the applicant has an opportunity to submit a revised application after hearing our feedback. Then our staff and advisory committee volunteers will review the application. And if it's approved, we'll provide any technical assistance needed to get the project ready to recommend to our board for funding. So that's our process. It's not just like you email us and we say no, generally, unless it's unless you're trying to plant palm trees on a beach, completely totally not eligible or something. We want to work with you to try to make the project happen. So it's a rolling grant program. The materials are on our website. You'll email our grants email to apply. I mentioned that it has to be a community-based organization, which we have defined on our website as well. The maximum grant award is $300,000. So these are meant to be smaller projects. And that is the program. Okay, and then some tips for applying. Of course, want to emphasize the eligibility criteria, the prioritization, and likelihood of success elements. There is just a Word document application that's a little shorter than our full regular grant round application, but you do still want to highlight your answers to the questions, provide a schedule and budget, any maps, photos, and any letters. An example of a community grant was Candlestick Point Stewardship Project. This was to Literacy for Environmental Justice, and they worked in the Bayview Hunters Point neighborhood. And this project they got an initial grant, and they've continued to work in this area and through their programming to plant thousands of native plants, clean up trash, and provide job training to dozens of youth through their Eco Apprentice program. And they also engage hundreds of community members in stewardship. And there's many other examples on our website of community grants if you're curious about the kind of range of work we can fund. And this is a note for any of our grants, how our invoicing process works. Our grants are paid in arrears, so you do the work and then you invoice us for the amount of money you spent. So it's important that you have a system to track your receipts and invoices, your staff hours, and you should be submitting a progress report at least quarterly and at most monthly, depending on your cash flow. So grantees submit their invoice to us with information and all their receipts and their progress report. We'll review that package from our contracts team and our project manager. it gets routed for signature on DocuSign, and then the finance team will mail a check to the grantee. It might actually not, it might be a ACH transfer in the future. We'll see if we modernize soon, but for now it's checks. So that's our invoicing process, just so everyone's aware that it's paid after work is completed. But if you have an organization with cash flow issues, you can ask if you're approved for a grant, you can ask to be part of the advanced payment program, and this is an option to be paid up front and then show your receipts later of what you accomplished with that funding, and then you can request the next installment. So it's installments of the grant paid up front. And for this, you would provide information to your grant manager and explain why you need advance payment, and explain how you'll track your staff time and your different activities. So that's an option. Again, just wanted to give people a picture of how the grant process works once you're approved. So that brings us to the end of our slides, but Linda and I are happy to answer any questions. People should be able to come off mute. You can also put things in the chat.
I don't see
Go
any.
ahead, Brian.
Oh,
Yeah, hi. Thanks for the quick presentation. I'm envisioning a project that could possibly kind of intertwine a restoration planning project with a community-based project, and kind of building a capacity of maybe a couple CBOs. I'm a local agent. I'm with a local agency, so I was just wondering, is that a possibility, or it's kind of going at both of those grant areas?
yes. Yeah, please reach out to us with a little more information.
Sure.
Yeah, we mentioned earlier that, even with our larger regular competitive grant round, we do want to see like community partners where possible. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, one option would be to list the community-based organizations you're working with as subs, like subcontractors. So they could be all wrapped into one grant application, unless the CBO wants to be leading the work on their own. That would be more of a community grant. But if your agency is going to be leading the bigger effort and then paying CBOs to carry out certain tasks, that could be one approach.
And then, would it come from the two separate granting areas, the kind
No.
of capital side and the community side, or does it matter?
No, if it would be led by like a local agency, then you would go through the regular grant program, and you could include some of that like community capacity building, community work within one grant.
Okay, thank you.
And Justin?
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to double check about trying to increase success in application. I'm City of Alameda. We have Deep Haven Park. We qualified for Measure AA a few years back. We reapplied last year, but we're not selected. Trying to figure out how to be more successful and trying to edge this project forward. It's been approved by BCDC's Design Review Board. We've got close ties with Brit. And so just trying to figure out, how do we get this next step of planning? We've got design development done to 30%, and now we need the next segment to get it through permitting to try to get bigger federal grant dollars. And so any tips for having one phase already completed, but also needing to get this next big hurdle done?
Yeah, thanks, Justin. Yeah, I'm just checking. It looks like we've sent you feedback, so you can definitely go from that if one of your colleagues has that document. But yeah, sometimes it just comes down to the group of applicants we get and the various benefits, and the regional allocation of our funding is a factor we consider. But as we said, all those prioritization criteria, have importance in our evaluation. So how you're engaging the community, how you hope to benefit the community. Yeah, I don't know if Linda, if you have more to add.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
that's great. I just wanted to double check.
Yeah. And I mean, yeah, especially if we have like a large batch of applications to evaluate, the ones that are more multi-benefit, tend to rise to the top. So we always encourage applicants to like reapply if, I mean, especially if you've gotten prior funding from us before. It is sometimes just like, the next year, there's some like really good projects maybe that are like implementation ready. And so there might be more focus on those. But yeah, we definitely encourage people to reapply.
All right, no, thank you very much.
Hi, Jason.
Hi, hello, hi. Yeah, Jason with the Port of San Francisco, and I am new to your process, and so maybe I have some very basic questions, and so the questions are basic, the answers can also be basic, but there's a few of them. Can I rapid fire some questions at you? So
Go ahead.
can grant funds be used to pay consultants to do the engineering design? I
Yes.
see a head shake there. Cool. Can the authority grant be a partial funding to a project in a given phase where you're sharing? Yes. Okay. You answered the frequency of reporting, basically monthly to quarterly. And the reporting is just basically submitting invoices to be paid. Are there a lot of other reporting requirements?
A progress report, and within the, I mean, for the invoices, we'd expect, all the backup documentation. And so
Mm-hmm.
we have some budget guidelines as well.
Yeah, and the
Okay.
progress report doesn't have to be super long. It's just more to give a little bit of narrative to your purchases and payments. So like, if we see a bunch of
Context.
receipts, it's like, what was this for? Just to give us an idea.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that's right.
and super helpful for us to understand progress of the project. So if there are delays or, anything that the Restoration Authority project manager should know about, like include that in your
Yeah.
project.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds very reasonable. And what's the competition been like in terms of number of applicants and selections? Is that something you could share?
Yeah, I think last year, there was a $80 million ask, like across all the applications, and we had maybe around $12 million to provide.
Mhm.
But that's because there were some projects coming to us for like construction and implementation projects.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so in terms of number of applications, around like 20 to 25 generally.
Okay. And last question, is the schedule in 2027 for application likely to be the same as 2026? Obviously, I'm here gathering some early intel and so we can strategize. So yeah, okay. Good. Thank you. Thanks very
Yeah,
much.
just about the same dates every year.
Okay. Very good. Thank you.
And Brian, is that?
Yeah, I'm following up. We didn't rehearse this with Jason, but my question is also about competition. And I wanted to know what's the you kind of talked about the quantity. What's the general pot of money out there for this grant round?
Oh, so last year we had about $12 million available for like new projects, basically. And I think this year it'll be around the same.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's 12 million and 20 to 25 projects going after that 12 million.
Yeah, we'll
Yeah, I
see
think
about
closer to
this.
18, but 20, but like hard to say
Okay.
who will come through. Yeah.
Yeah. And but yeah, as I mentioned, like last year the request was huge because there were construction projects. So it was like what?
And a large acquisition as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I expect the requests to be increasingly large as time goes on. So that's why we're here early. Thanks.
Okay. Well, if you have any other questions that you think of after today, please feel free to reach out to grants@sfarestore.org. We are available by email. And again, we encourage pre-application just so you can get some early feedback from us that's specific to your project. And otherwise, yeah, we are available.
Yeah, and we'll send out this recording and the slides after this meeting. Great, thanks
Great.
everyone.
Thank you very
Okay,
much.
thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Have a good
Everyone.
day. Thank you.